Fala aí pessoal, sejam todos bem-vindos ao nosso e vosso podcast Pró Desporto. Eu sou o Avelino Kiala e estou aqui acompanhado de Jonathan Timóteo. Como é que é, Jota?
Tudo tranquilo, hoje para uma edição muito especial, vamos perceber porquê.
Ok, hoje vamos pular a introdução, vamos direto ao que interessa, vamos falar sobre basquetebol e conosco temos um convidado especial, infelizmente não fala português, então a entrevista vai ser feita em inglês, já está a começar a se tornar hábito isso aqui. E pronto, eu vou passar agora por inglês, então... So we will speak with former head coach of Angola national team and now FIBA commentator at Afrobasket 2025, Coach Will Voigt. Welcome to our studio, our podcast.
Muito obrigado.
Yeah, he said he doesn't speak Portuguese. He speaks Portuguese.
So, Coach, how does it feel? I already asked you that, but how does it feel to be back in Angola?
Yeah, it's great. I've been able to see a lot of my former players at the games, so that's been really, really nice. And different members of the federation and fans. So it's been great to be back here.
Good. We will talk a little bit about your time in the Angola national team, then about Afrobasket. So we'll start by trying to know how did the opportunity to coach the Angola national team come about?
Yeah, well, we beat Angola in 2015 at Afrobasket when I was coaching the Nigerian national team. So, after the Olympics, so that qualified us for the Olympics. After the Olympics, most will remember 2017 was not a good turnout for Angola at Afrobasket. So Elder Cruz, when he took over as federation president, reached out to me and asked me to coach the team.
So what surprised you the most about the Angolan basketball culture? Was the players, the infrastructure? What surprised you the most when you first got here?
Well, Angola comes with a great reputation. So when you coach other nations, kind of everybody, held Angola at the top just in terms of organization and love of the game and fan support. So it was great to see that. For the first game, Pilviao, Multiusos, and seeing the crowd, and then you understood. So it's unique. They're great fans on the continent, but nobody has supported basketball and understands basketball longer and better than Angola.
Okay. So what are the main memories that you carry from your time at the national team?
Hearing the anthem for the first time. So it's still, one of my favorite things about games here, the passion that, everybody sings. So... that was really electric. That first window, I don't know if people would remember this, but we had two close games, closer than we would want. We won, but it was an introduction to these fans, and thankfully for me and my time as head coach, we never lost in that building. So you just see how special all that is. So definitely, that's probably one of my fondest memories.
Do you have any unforgettable game during that period of time that you used to coach Angola?
Yeah, lots. So again, those first couple of games were tough. Egypt was actually one of those teams here. We had some really great battles. I think probably. Maybe one of my most enjoyable games was Tunisia. So people might remember that. Coach Palma coming back to Angola. So obviously there's a lot there. I have a lot of respect for him. That was a very good Tunisia team. So to beat them here at home was a great moment.
Nice. What were the biggest challenge that you have leading this national team?
I mean, there's always, I think, different challenges. I think one of the biggest ones is just the preparations, making sure people were paid on time. People mentally were in a good place because of that. There's a lot of stuff that sometimes you have to deal with as a coach that's outside of basketball. So, I think often when you look at these teams and these tournaments, a lot has to do with how good their preparation was coming into these tournaments. So, I think at times that can be challenging, but just making sure that, our guys were all in a good place and ready to compete.
How did you manage to scout the players? You scouted the players from the national championship from outside. How did you manage to do that? You said you never lost a game here. That's a fact. So how do you assemble the team, seeing that you weren't living in Angola at that time?
Yeah, well, obviously I was familiar with a lot of them just from having competed against them with Nigeria. And then, I came and watched the league games. So, I got to see a lot of these players firsthand, talk to a lot of the coaches here to try to get an idea of, who were some of the young up-and-coming talents. And also knew at that time we were going to need to start, introducing younger players, right? Because, a lot of these guys, Limpio was for sure on his last tournament, Mingas, Paulo, Carlos Moraes, really all these guys were advanced in their careers. So that was a big part of me, identifying Lucchini and, Jerson Domingos and, even Gilson, some of these younger players. And then I was talking to Silvio and Bruno Sultan. So all these guys who are now playing, I started talking to them when they're in high school about, hey, we need you to come back to Angola. We need you to be a part of this. And even Shilda, like we brought Shilda into one of our camps with the same thought, he's going to be good. Let's give him some experience with the national team and make him want to be a part of it. So, it's really that, just trying to build towards the future. So it's fun to watch this team now because so many of those guys are now, really great players on this team.
Right. How do you see Angola evolution since your departure?
I think the biggest thing is, in the past, it was really the guards, right? Angola had usually some of the best guards in Africa, but we're small. And now, right, it's opposite. There's so many bigs. You can see, Coach Claudos is playing 3 centers at a time on the floor and just, bringing all these guys in. So, that's a real shift. I mean, we had Yannick, but even, like Bunga is really more of a power forward than a center. Like we just didn't have anywhere close to the size that this team now has. So I think, it's interesting to see that development in Angolan basketball.
Okay. So where do you think Angola needs to invest the most? In infrastructure, scouting, the domestic league, which area?
Yeah, I think with every program, it starts at the younger ages. So the more you can do, with those age groups, the better. So I know Elder Cruz brought junior NBA here for a little while. It sounds like maybe that hasn't continued, but I think participation there is really important. I think the development of coaches also really important. So, the more good coaches you have coaching young players, that's, the better. And then, the development of the BAL and really basketball in Africa overall has been so great. So you're seeing, honestly, I think Shilda is the perfect example of that, right? So he didn't go to the U.S. He hasn't gone. He stayed right here in Luanda. Right. Has led Petro to a BAL championship. We see the game he has in the quarterfinals. So, you're now able to develop more by staying here on the continent. So I think that's great for the older players, but the younger players, having them involved in under 15 Afrobasket, under 7, have the junior teams also going to these tournaments as well is important.
Okay. We are. I don't know how to ask this. We are sending now. You talk about children now, and we are in a time where we are sending players to US to play there in the high school and college, and then try to get in the NBA.
Yeah.
So how is it? How can I say that? How important is for the players here to try this route to the NBA, or
try Shield's
way. Let's say that's.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think still the opportunity to go to the U.S. is or anywhere at a high level is still a good one. I think what is great about Shilda is now it's not the only one. So especially, for a player like him, small in stature, it's a lot harder to get foreign teams to want to bring the guards, right? They all want the bigs. But you've seen it, Selton, had a great college career, played summer league with the Utah Jazz, likely will play in the NBA G League this year. So, he's close. I think the experience he got, but also too, watching Jilson. So that was one of the things when Jilson was young, I was trying to encourage him and the people around him, like try to get him
overseas.
Yeah. Like give him an opportunity to play at these higher levels. And I think also what that allows, you're just exposed to more things, but then you can always come back. I think that's the important thing, right? Like you come back. So you're seeing it with Yannick. Yannick's played all over the world, but he's back in Luanda. So, it's kind of this circle, right? So I still think it's a great area to pursue. Neto is sort of another young up-and-coming player that... Reginald. So, I've been in touch with him a lot and tried to help him with the recruitment. He's actually at a school right next to where I have a house. So, so we'll be watching his progression too. But, I think all these opportunities are only, good. So, I think any Angolan player, if it's the right environment, I think it's great to experience things besides Angola.
Yeah, there is no right path to go. Just what feels good, what feels the best for the player.
Yeah, and really what's unique about Angola, it has one of the best domestic leagues for a long time. So for a lot of players in the continent, there was no option, right? Their domestic league, there was no way they could play there. So, in some ways it's a blessing and a curse, right? So you can have a comfortable life playing here in Angola, and you maybe don't want to take the risk of leaving. But I think sometimes too, and it'll be interesting to see with Shilda, right? He's had a great tournament. He's still a young player.
Right. 27.
Yeah. What will he decide to do? But again, like what we said earlier, I think it's good for them to have some experience away, and then they can always come back. Always come back, give back to the game here. But that was something with some of our players when I was the coach. It was hard to convince them. They had, whether it was Petro or Primera or whatever the club, like they were comfortable here. So the thought of starting over with a European team, maybe it's just a little too risky.
Right. Okay. So there's a question I have to ask about your relationship with the Federation, Angolan Basketball Federation. Now, you had issues with the federation. Is this settled now? How's the relation with the federation now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to dive too far into that. Plain and simple, like there's still money owed, and hopefully it's something that we can one day resolve. So, hasn't changed my support for Angola or the team, and I understand financially there's struggles. So, you just hope one day everything can be clear, and then everybody can move forward. Yeah.
Okay. Now about Afrobasket, has these Afrobasket lived up to your expectations?
Oh, it's been, I think, a great tournament. Coming in, I said this actually on one of the broadcasts. I think this is the most balanced Afrobasket tournament maybe ever, right? In the past, there were always, 4 teams, maybe 5, but usually everybody could tell you who the 4 teams in the semifinals were probably going to be. And you could see this tournament when the teams were coming in, how many teams were strong and had a legitimate case of winning. So, and I think we've seen that play out. Angola is the only group winner who won. And it was a very close game. So, so you're seeing it, right? And that's great for basketball on the continent to see these other national teams starting to rise up as well.
Right. Which team has surprised you the most so far?
Well, of course, Mali. And, that team at the Under-19 World Championships that went and got silver, some of those players are now, on this men's team. So Balo, Kanuti, like some of those guys now are old enough. So I think it's exciting for them to see them bring that same level of success with so many young players. So I think that's been great to watch.
There's been a lot of talk about officiating in this tournament. I don't know if you are able to talk about this, but what's your take on it?
You're asking all the questions to get me in trouble. Federation, officials. I think anybody that watched the quarterfinal game, it's probably, not at the standard that you would want. I thought Capo Verde, played a really valiant, we would say in English, valiant game despite all those things. So, but it's, I think the tournament as a whole has been really good and probably maybe the best I've seen in terms of the officiating game to game. So I think, there's one game that probably a lot of people are going to talk about and just how it is. But I think overall they've done a really good job.
So the number of African players on NBA and European leagues is growing fast. So in your opinion, what impact has this phenomenon have on African national teams?
Yeah, well, I think you're seeing it, right? It's bringing the levels up. So I think there are a lot of factors, though. I think the BAL also is a big part of that. It's another big stage for these players to play on and get that experience of playing on. So, you have that. And then I think, the NBA has invested a lot in African basketball, the academy in Senegal, junior NBA.
Basketball Without Borders.
Right, Basketball Without Borders, which is going on right now in Rwanda. So, the more exposure and the more investment that you see, I think naturally it's going to bring everything up. So it's exciting to see that. It's also exciting to see these players come back. I think that's the most important thing. They hopefully understand how important it is for them to return and then give back to basketball on the continent. So like for me, like seeing Yves Missy here is great, right? Still young player, but he's an NBA star and all that, but here he is, leading his team. So we just need to make sure that continues.
Yeah. That's not a direct message to Joel Embiid.
Do you think that this plays an extra responsibility to these players when they return to represent the national teams?
Yeah, I do. It's, I mean, credit to them for working hard to get to the place that they're at. But I think we all know that there have been a lot of great players on the continent who just didn't get an opportunity. And I think, understanding that is important. So if you're, one of these players who has made it to the NBA or has made it to EuroLeague or whatever, this level is, not forgetting where you came from and being able to return, I think is really important. So, just with my own players, like, Yannick comes back, he does a camp in Quilamba. Those kind of things are so great. And, there are a lot of former players involved in the league here, right? So Kikash is the GM for Primera, Bunga's the GM for Petra, right? So it's like, it's great. It's great to see that. And the more that players can come back, not just in Angola, but in all of Africa and give back, then that's just going to help the game grow even more.
So how's been the experience of commentating the tournament after you previously coached in it?
Well, I'm trying hard. It's hard not to, get too excited and involved in the game, especially as a coach, right? Like you're always thinking about, maybe you should want to, do this here or do this there. And but for me, it's a great way to stay around African basketball. So, now I'm coaching at BYU, and we've, I've been sure to recruit players from Africa. So, we have Hadim and Boob from Senegal. We have 2 players from Mali, Keba Keita and Osenu Traore. So, for us, that's going to be a big part of what we want to do moving forward, something that I want to make sure we do moving forward. But it also, I have big time commitments there with that team in the U.S. So any opportunity to come back here in any capacity is great. So
a message to Angolan players, and high school in USA, hit coach to
BYU.
Yeah. BYU is the place.
Come to BYU. All players in the continent.
So we've been in the stadium. How is to feel? I mean, you've been there being a coach, but now with commentating the games. How does it feel to see the Angolan crowd in the games?
Yeah, I mean, it's so fun to be back in that building and to see those fans. And, obviously, on the coaching side, I've been lucky enough to experience that. But, Angolans love basketball and know their history of basketball. So I think that's been, for me, one of the things I've enjoyed most is all the former players that we've seen in the crowds, right? And even former coaches. Former coaches, former federation presidents, former, everybody that's been involved in Angolan basketball for so long are there. So, for me, I think sometimes as a coach, you're so focused on winning the game. Like that's probably something that I wouldn't have been able to really appreciate in those moments. So having a little bit of that pressure off and just kind of sitting back and enjoying this atmosphere has been fun.
Good.
Is there a final message that you would like to send to the Angolan fans regarding the future of the Angolan basketball?
Well, I think the future is very bright. I think we're seeing it at this tournament. As I said, I'm proud because some of these young players were, boys that I was trying to motivate. So to see them now, as men leading their national team has really been rewarding for me. And, I have to I can't be biased when I'm broadcasting, but Angola Forza.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time, Coach. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Muito prazer. Obrigado.
Em português.
Ao pessoal que está lá em casa, muito obrigado por ter assistido até aqui. Não esqueçam de nos seguir nas redes sociais, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, nosso website, prodesporto.com, e sigam-nos também no YouTube. Subscrevam o nosso canal por lá. Muito obrigado mais uma vez, estamos juntos, até a próxima.